I know exactly how your heart feels right now. The moment you wake up and the first sensation isn't hope, but a deep, sinking recognition of the day before. It's that heavy silence that settles just before the alarm goes off, when the world is still dark and you realize that all the mistakes, all the regrets, all the unfinished battles you fought yesterday are still waiting for you. They didn't dissolve in the night air. They didn't evaporate while you slept. It is the specific kind of exhaustion that isn't physical, but moral. A weight in your chest that feels like accumulated failure. You look back at the week, maybe the year, and you see the promises you broke to yourself, the words you shouldn't have said, the compassion you failed to show, and the quiet, secret doubt that whispers, "I am fundamentally stuck." You tell yourself you should be stronger by now. You should have learned this lesson already. You should be further along the path. And that pressure, that expectation of perpetual spiritual progress, only adds grit to the gears. It makes the act of breathing feel like a chore. I know that feeling of staring out the window, watching the sunrise, and seeing not a new beginning, but simply a continuation of the same old mess. You may be trying hard, praying hard, striving hard, but the residue of the past clings to your soul like dust, making everything you touch feel stale. You are tired of being tired, aren't you? You are weary of the constant need to pull yourself up by bootstraps that feel frayed and broken. This heavy, honest acknowledgement of our human limitation, this is the sacred ground we need to stand on today. It is exactly for the heart burdened by repetitive failure and deep, unshakable weariness that this ancient promise was written.
But listen closely. That feeling is not a sign of your ultimate failure. It is a sacred invitation to radical reliance. We are talking today about activating the promise found in the book of Lamentations, chapter 3, verses 22 and 23. This passage, written from the deepest valley of despair and national ruin, carries the essence of divine intervention into our mundane, exhausting reality. It says, "The steadfast love of the Lord never ceases. His mercies never come to an end. They are new every morning. Great is your faithfulness." Most people treat this verse like a comforting plaque on the wall, a nice theological concept to quote when things get tough. But I want us to treat it like a functional portal, a daily switch we must learn to flip, moving us from the economy of earning to the economy of receiving. This promise is not about the theoretical possibility of mercy. It is about the practical reality of freshness that is actively, reliably, and newly deposited into our lives every single day. We must learn how to wake up and truly receive this newness, rather than defaulting to the weight of the old. I want you to think of this daily renewing mercy, not as a rushing river or a crashing wave. Those images often imply effort, drama. But instead, think of it as the quiet, persistent presence of the morning dew. The dew arrives while the world sleeps. It doesn't require us to schedule it. It doesn't wait for us to be worthy. It doesn't judge the dirt on the pavement or the wilt on the flower. It simply settles, evenly and completely, offering refreshment and moisture where yesterday's heat had caused dryness and strain. It is a silent, essential grace that is entirely new, entirely clean, and completely sufficient for the immediate needs of the morning. This dew is the anchor for our soul, the promise that what was consumed by yesterday's fire will be replenished by this morning's subtle yet powerful faithfulness. We are called to step into this dew, to feel the cool, clean shock of it, and allow it to wash the grit from our tired eyes. But why then, when the sun rises and the dew is present, do so many of us still feel dry and defeated? Why does the burden of yesterday still feel so heavy on our shoulders? It is because we fall prey to several profound internal obstacles that actively block the receiving mechanism of our souls. We fail to recognize the boundary God has set between yesterday and today. The first mistake we make is what I call the heavy backpack of yesterday. This is the internal, compulsive need to carry the accumulated moral failures, the anxieties, and the disappointments of the last 24 hours directly into the next 24. We wake up, and immediately we reach for the heavy backpack filled with the guilt of the argument we had, the regret over the time we wasted, or the self-condemnation for the poor choice we made right before midnight. We treat the new morning not as a clean slate, but as merely the next page in the same soiled, ongoing journal. We believe that if we forget the failure, we might repeat it, so we keep the painful memory close, almost as a form of self-punishment we believe we deserve. This block manifests practically when you open your eyes and your first thought is a review of mistakes rather than an acknowledgement of breath. You use the first hour of your day, the hour of potential freshness, to strategize how to mitigate damage from the past rather than how to step intentionally into the new purpose of the present. And carrying that heavy backpack prevents you from kneeling to collect the dew, doesn't it? Your posture is wrong. You are leaning backward, constantly looking over your shoulder at what you should have done differently.
I remember distinctly a period in my life, years ago, when I was completely overwhelmed by professional stress and poor personal habits. I became short-tempered and distant. One specific evening, I snapped at someone I deeply loved over something incredibly trivial, a misplaced set of keys. It was vicious and unfair. I apologized immediately, but the damage was done, and the shame, that hot, sickening shame, rooted itself deep in my stomach. The next morning, I woke up, and before my feet hit the floor, I was rehearsing the scene, analyzing my tone, calculating the long-term relational damage I might have caused. I spent the entire morning walk, which should have been a time of quiet prayer, arguing with myself about my character flaws. I was so busy dragging the weight of that verbal failure that I missed the sunlight filtering through the trees. I missed the distinct, crisp morning air. I missed the evidence of God's faithfulness renewing the world around me. I had effectively chosen to live in yesterday's guilt, rendering today's mercy obsolete. Are you truly hearing this? Does this sound familiar? This addiction to self-recrimination? We must understand that true repentance is not prolonged self-flagellation. It is the acceptance of mercy that sets us free from the need to carry the burden ourselves. The practical solution here is simple yet revolutionary. We must learn the deliberate act of placing the backpack down. Before you close your eyes each night, you must make a conscious spiritual boundary setting. Confess the failures of the day, name them specifically, and then visualize yourself placing that heavy burden, the backpack of yesterday's sins and anxieties, at the foot of the cross. When you wake up, you do not reach for it. You leave it there, covered by the steadfast love that never ceases.
You do not ask, "What did I do wrong yesterday?" You ask, "What is the one thing God is inviting me to do today?" The dew only settles on ground that is available to receive it. But even when we manage to drop the backpack, we often stumble into the second major block, what I call the myth of earning freshness. This obstacle is rooted in our deep-seated transactional view of grace. We subconsciously believe that the new mercies of the morning are contingent upon our spiritual performance. We wake up feeling unworthy because we didn't spend enough time in prayer last night, or perhaps we harbored an uncharitable thought just before falling asleep. Therefore, we approach the day with suspicion, believing we must perform several spiritual acts, read 3 chapters, pray for 30 minutes, resist that temptation, before we can confidently claim the freshness that the morning brings. This turns the renewal of mercy into a wage system. We treat God's faithfulness like a reward for our early morning striving, rather than the non-negotiable, essential atmosphere we breathe. When we try to earn the dew, we miss the whole point. The dew doesn't require the grass to perform a dance. It simply settles, because that is its nature, and it is the nature of the sun's absence. I vividly remember a time when my prayer life felt like a desperate mechanical negotiation. I was struggling with a complex decision, and I felt paralyzed. I kept pushing myself to pray longer, using increasingly eloquent language, trying to impress upon God my sincerity, hoping that the sheer volume of my effort would finally trigger the promised breakthrough or the promised peace. But the more I tried to earn it, the drier I became. My heart was hollow, the words felt stale, and the whole exercise was exhausting. I was trying to manufacture the dew through effort, instead of simply opening my hands and accepting that it was already present. I was striving for a holiness that was already offered as a gift. Does this pattern of striving resonate with you? Do you feel you must clean yourself up before you approach the well of mercy? The solution to this is radical acceptance of the gift.
We must internalize the truth that the Lord's mercies are new because of His faithfulness, not ours. You do not wake up and manufacture the sunrise. You simply accept the light. We need to shift our focus from doing spiritual activities to being present in the receiving. This means that if you wake up and your first thought is condemnation, you must immediately counter it with the simple, powerful truth: His mercies are new for me right now, completely independent of how I felt or performed 5 minutes ago. The dew is here. You don't make it, you only open up to it. The third significant barrier to experiencing the renewal of mercy is what I call the curse of prediction. This obstacle involves taking the freshness of the morning and immediately contaminating it with anxieties about the distant future. We receive the 24 hours of fresh mercy, the exact amount provided for today, and we immediately try to stretch it to cover next week's deadlines, next month's financial struggles, or next year's unknown health challenges. We consume the present moment's grace by worrying about the future's hypothetical needs. The promise is explicit: mercies are new every morning. This means that the grace is only guaranteed for the immediate horizon. When we try to stack today's grace on top of tomorrow's unknown burdens, we find that the load becomes unbearable and the freshness immediately fades into overwhelming anxiety. We paralyze ourselves with the fear of future failure, forgetting that the supply chain of mercy is fundamentally a daily operation. I witnessed this paralysis in myself most acutely during a period of transition, where I had to leave a position of certainty and step into a venture with immense risk. Every morning, I was granted a clear mind and a sense of direction for the immediate tasks. But within an hour, my mind would spiral, projecting 6 months down the line. What if the money runs out? What if I fail publicly? What if this decision ruins my family's security? That immediate influx of fear instantly dried up the freshness of the morning. The tasks I needed to do today seemed pointless because the catastrophic future I imagined rendered them futile. I was trying to live on next Tuesday's grace, and consequently, I ran out of strength for this Tuesday morning. Does the future often steal the peace of your present moment? Does the unknown paralyze you more than the known? The solution is to embrace the sufficiency of the day's dew. The promise is that the mercies are new today. We must intentionally practice the discipline of spiritual boundaries, limiting our planning and our anxiety to the scope of this single day. When the worry about next week tries to creep in, you must gently, firmly, and repeatedly remind your soul, the dew is sufficient for this day only. I will trust the faithfulness that guarantees tomorrow's freshness when tomorrow arrives. This is radical trust, living moment by moment, recognizing the sacred boundary of the 24-hour cycle. We must stop using today's grace to feed tomorrow's fear. Finally, the fourth and perhaps most subtle trap is what I name mistaking habit for heart.
This obstacle is the dangerous tendency to perform the rituals of faith, the reading, the praying, the meditating, without genuine expectation, connection, or sensation of renewal. We go through the motions because that is what faithful people do. We check the box, but our hearts remain numb, distant, and untouched by the profound reality of God's presence. We treat the time spent in the morning quiet as a task to be completed, rather than the receiving of the daily dew. When we mistake habit for heart, our relationship with the sacred becomes mechanical. We approach the divine as an object to be utilized, rather than a presence to be encountered. We miss the instigating, miraculous reality of God hiding in the everyday, in the aroma of the first cup of coffee, in the quiet sigh of relief as we sit down, in the simple, rhythmic act of breathing. When we are rushing through the habit to get to the real day, we miss the foundational renewal that happens in the silence. I experienced this deeply during a period of intense ministry, where my mornings were structured, rigid, and completely devoid of feeling. I was reading the scripture, but the words were flat. I was praying, but I felt like I was talking into a vacuum. I was doing all the right things, but the freshness had vanished. Why? Because I was not pausing to feel the dew. I was rushing past the quiet miracle of the sunrise to get to the loud demands of the afternoon.
I was looking for a dramatic sign when the sacred was offering itself in the mundane, soft tones of the morning light. The solution to this mechanical faith is intentional presence and sensory gratitude. We must stop the rush and cultivate the ability to recognize the sacred in the commonplace. Take a moment right now, wherever you are, and notice something simple: the texture of the air, the sound outside the window, the warmth of your hands. These are not accidental details. They are the evidence of the sustaining, moment-by-moment faithfulness of God. The new mercy is not just a theological concept. It is the fact that you are breathing, that the world is turning, that the sun returned. We must slow down enough to let the dew settle on our skin and truly feel the cool, clean shock of it. This is where the heart awakens. So, how do we practically step into the unfailing freshness of mercy that renews itself every dawn? It is not through a grand, complicated spiritual discipline, but through these 4 simple acts of faith, anchors for your soul in the echo of Grace community. First, we commit to dropping the backpack of yesterday. We acknowledge the boundary of the day and refuse to carry yesterday's guilt into today's promise. You are free from the requirement of self-punishment. Second, we embrace radical acceptance of the gift. We stop trying to earn the freshness through performance or striving. We recognize that the mercy is new because He is faithful, not because we are worthy. Third, we practice the sufficiency of the day's due. We stop poisoning the present moment by stretching today's grace to cover tomorrow's unknown burdens. We live within the scope of this single precious 24-hour cycle. And fourth, we cultivate intentional presence and sensory gratitude. We slow down, stop mistaking habit for heart, and open our senses to the quiet, miraculous reality of the sacred hiding in the mundane light of the morning. This is the secret. Renewal is not something you achieve. It is something you receive. It is not an event reserved for big spiritual retreats. It is the daily, quiet invitation extended the moment your eyes open. The abundant life is not a finish line to be crossed. It is the cool, clean dew beneath your feet, waiting for you to simply step into it. The Lord's mercies never come to an end, and they are new every single morning.
This promise is active, and it is for you. I invite you right now to take a slow, deep breath, accepting the freshness of the air as the first tangible evidence of God's faithfulness to you today. Commit to dropping that heavy backpack you've been carrying. Take one specific failure from yesterday and visualize yourself leaving it behind. Let go of the need to fix it all right now. If this message has touched that weary place in your soul, share it. There are others waking up right now, feeling the same heavy silence, believing they are stuck in yesterday. Share this video with them, or simply share in the comments below which one of these 4 obstacles you are determined to drop today. Let us be a community that reminds each other daily that His mercies never cease. Thank you for allowing me to share this moment of quiet renewal with you. May you feel the cool, clean freshness of the morning dew settle upon your heart today. Go in peace, accepting the sufficiency of this moment's grace. May the steadfast love of the Lord overflow in your life right now and every morning that follows.